university after A-levels and everything. Was looking to go into basically cardiac rehabilitation at the time. Did a little bit of work in hospitals, but kind of there wasn't many positions available at the time, and then kind of fell into my job I had before this, which was working within the Home Office in immigration. So it was never a passion to kind of work within that industry, but it was good in terms of like the hours that we worked and money, and it kind of gave me my first house and and all that and everything. So it was great with that. But at kind of 27, I was looking, do I really want to be kind of doing it for the next 35, 40 years? So I've played golf since I was kind of like 15, 16 anyway. And then fortunate enough to know John McLaughlin, who's was at Warrington Golf Club at the time, and now at Wallasey Golf Club as course manager over there. And it was only on Facebook for a bit of awareness, really, like seeing these pictures he was putting on of kind of, morning setup and kind of maintenance week and, working with the machinery and everything. And it just looked quite interesting, to be honest. So from a golfing perspective of not really thinking about how the course is maintained and everything, to then seeing these pictures and, I've got sort of an allotment in my back garden and stuff and like kind of love my gardening. So I've got that maintenance side of things as well. And it was just a message, literally I fired across to John and said, could I have a bit of a chat to you about kind of what you do and what it involves and everything like that. And yeah, a couple of phone calls later and he told me all about it. And then he said, do you want to come in for a couple of morning shifts just to see what you think of it and whether you like it and everything. And at this point in the Home Office, my job I was in, I'd gone for another job. There was a little bit of kind of, you can't move in different places because of basically the European settlement scheme at the time. It was a really, really busy period. So not that I was kind of forced to stay in the position I was in, but there wasn't much opportunity to move and kind of progress and everything. So I thought, right, I need to really think about it more. So yeah, ended up working the morning shifts, just booking a couple of mornings off work. And I think people noticed when I went into work in the afternoon, I was buzzing after being out on the course for literally 4 hours. And, I know the first time I did it, I kind of just went out and kind of cleaned up a few tee markers, with one of the guys there, raked a few bunkers, seeing how they were maintained. And all of a sudden seeing this guy on what didn't know at the time, but it was a roller. And it was just like, going up and down the green, and then someone else out on this big rough mower. And it was like, it's like quite an interesting, variation of jobs basically that you could do on a daily basis. And then, yeah, went in again for morning shift and kind of got a little bit more involved then. And then, yeah, I decided, speaking to my partner at the time and everything, and said, it's something I want to go into. But in terms of pay, it was dropping down and everything. And it was knowing that I'd have to start again, essentially, and with a mortgage and long-term relationship at the time, it was considering them elements and making sure that it was going to work going forward. But yeah, after all that, handed my notice in with the Home Office and yeah, did 4 weeks of notice there. And John offered me a position basically that it wasn't there at the time when I did the couple of trial shifts, but someone had just left. And it was by luck probably that, I got the position there. But I went through a couple of applications just for an apprenticeship basically, with the government and everything at different courses, and didn't hear much back from them. But then obviously John offered me this one at Warrington. Which was brilliant. And then, yeah, started out there and, it's kind of 4 years down the line now. But I think I was quite fortunate to start with John as my course manager, because obviously got a lot of experience and everything and a good golfer as it was, so he travelled around a little bit as well. But also he was very much about continuous professional development and looking at opportunities within the industry. So only 3 months in, I went and worked at Royal St David's Golf Club and did a week there at the Women's Senior Amateur, which was a great opportunity to get involved with a different team, a different course, go and understand kind of a links environment, and just really get that different experience. And then basically did my level 2 there, so made sure that as part of the job I was going to get enrolled onto that and complete that whilst I was at Warrington. Went on to complete that with kind of distinction on all elements. And then basically it was deciding at this point I was at, a Heathland course. It was kind of a free draining site. We had push-up greens. So it was for me about, I understood at this point we've got, links courses, we've got sort of downland courses, you've got sort of parkland courses in there. So I was happy at Warrington, but I knew I needed to move on to kind of progress more. So an opportunity came up at Preston Golf Club when I was being at Warrington just under 2 years. and that's USJ specification greens. It was a parkland site where there was a lot of drainage being done on the course, a lot of tree work. So I knew that when I spoke to the kind of course manager there and stuff as well, there was the idea of doing my chainsaw course when I was there. So it's another qualification that I'd have. And then when I spoke to Johnny, the course manager over there, he just had a real enthusiasm and a buzz about the industry and everything as well. And he kind of seen my ecology aspect and idea of it as well. So basically, once we'd gone, kind of had a big chat and everything, he offered me a greenkeeper and ecology manager post over there. And the greenkeeping side of it was kind of similar to what I'd obviously done at Warrington and the jobs we were doing. But the ecology side, we've got a brook that kind of runs through the course basically at Preston. And it was eroding away, basically potentially going to come into kind of sewage pipes further down the line and everything. So it was about how we could re-establish some of that, slow the flow of water and everything as well. So it was great to work with kind of, in terms of the environment and everything, the Environment Agency. We worked with a wetland engineer so that we could kind of look at how we could put in maybe some like riparian wetlands. And then we utilised some timber off the course kind of to do leaky dams, and tried one way of doing it, and I'd just left at this point to come to Ormskirk. But basically the power of the water kind of came through this, and it didn't quite work as we wanted. But then it was an idea that, right, well, we can establish some different sort of designs in there and everything and see how that stops the flow of water. But it was the start of that journey of basically, improving it from an ecology aspect, and the fact we could put things like sort of otter nests in and everything as well, and things, and kingfisher nests, and just adding that aspect to the golf course really. And for me, I was really, really happy there. But it was one of them as well where I knew I was going to kind of have kids going forward. And at this point, I was doing 50-mile round trip every day to kind of go up to Preston and back. So in terms of the money I was spending on petrol, and also the time, coming back and kind of taking like 45 minutes sometimes. And as much as I was really happy there, it was also thinking, right, the time is really, really important to me as well. So basically when Ormskirk came up, I only live 10-15 minutes away from here, and I'd heard about the course. I'd played the course prior to this as well, and just before I kind of went for the job, I came and played it again, and it was in as good a condition as I'd seen previously, if not better, to be honest. So I think you see from that in terms of what golf course you're going to be working on and what kind of maintenance job you'll be doing. Being proud of the course you work on really. So yeah, ended up contacting Chris at the time and said, basically I'm interested in the position and everything. And yeah, came to the interview, and we had a good sort of 45-minute hour chat with himself and the secretary as well, and got offered that position at the end of the interview, which was great. And since then, we've kind of set up a bit of a sustainability committee here and everything, because the ecology things wasn't quite as high on the agenda as I think the club wanted, or I wanted when I started out. So it's been important to kind of develop that. We started like a yellow rattle trial, basically like a parasitic plant to thin out some of the roughs and everything as well, which is like a 2-year trial. And then it's just been about kind of further learning for me, and I've managed to do my spraying course here and everything now, so that I've got another qualification kind of under my belt. And yeah, I think it's great now that I've seen 3 different courses, one being full heathland course, one being a full parkland course, and then this used to be a heathland and now parklands, with the amount of trees we've got on the course. But I know thinning them out going forward, and different things we want to change. So yeah, that's kind of career to date, but there's all the other elements of it that have kind of got me there is the education aspect and kind of my membership with Bigger. So when I was at Preston Golf Club, I went for an ICL scholarship, and that allowed me to do sort of 3-4 days at BTME and do some different classes there and everything, which fully funded when you're going for it, and it's not costing you any financially. When that amount of education plus a hotel stay would have cost me upwards of £600-700 probably, which is something I couldn't afford. And clubs are there to support you obviously in terms of that money, but there's only so much they can do as well in terms of you. So I think if you can do things for yourself as well, it obviously really helps. So did the ICL scholarship, went on to apply for Torres Student Greenkeeper of the Year in 2021. And again, I was only 2 years into greenkeeping at this point, so obviously you see people around you and there's a lot of experience, and that, right, I've learned a lot in 2 years, but there's still these people that know maybe a little bit more and everything. So I think it was a great learning experience for me. and also pick up on exactly what the finals involved, and maybe at this point what I could improve on if I was to go for it further, which it was always the idea to go on from a level 3. And then in my head I was like, right, once I'm going through my level 3, I'll go for it again at that point.